Hi, this is Craig Stocks here for Utah Desert Remote Observatories. You can find us online at utahdesertremote.com. We can be your source for a place to locate a remote telescope under the clear, dark skies of southwest Utah. We'd love to talk to you about that. You can find more information on our website at utahdesertremote.com. I posted a picture the other day of the Iris Nebula, and this is actually a later version of it, but there was some questions about my comment of the way I combined two different stretch methods. And so I wanted to walk through what I did and how I did that. And we'll start in PixInsight. So let me switch over to PixInsight. And basically I went through what I would consider kind of a standard calibration and integration in PixInsight. I had 42 light frames, and I'm still continuing to accumulate data on this target, so it will probably change over time. So don't think this is the end-all and be-all. I'm still not really satisfied with it. But I do have at this point 42 light frames at 600 seconds each, plus flats, darks, and bias, and run those through what I guess is a fairly standard WBPP to get a complete integrated image. So let's just take a quick look at that. This was the end result of running that, and if I do a quick screen stretch, you can see that the color is a little bit off. I don't know if this is normal or abnormal. This is a one-shot color camera, but out of the box, the color's not very good in this image. There's a real easy way to get on top of this, and that's using the dynamic background extraction. And this is a technique I saw from Sean Nielsen at visibledark.ca, and I would encourage you to check out his videos. He's got tons of videos about using PixInsight. But basically what he's using is this large selection of points. And in fact, I've saved the setup because I always use the same camera, so I always want the same points. And sometimes I'll move some around if something's on a bright star, like I might move this one down or move this one over a little bit. But for the most part, I just use it as it comes up. And then we have what he referred to as relaxed parameters for the tolerance and the shadows relaxation. So I'll just run that real quick. And this will, for the most part, solve any major gradients, as well as bringing out a nice dark background and giving me a good color balanced image as a good starting point. That it will need to be restretched. So let's just close this, and let's do our screen stretch again to see where we're at. And what we'll see is it's not a bad starting point, probably not even a bad ending point most of the time. I would not be completely unhappy with this image. There are a few things I'd probably tweak the color a little bit because the background looks a little bit blue, the core's a little bit bright, and I might like a little bit more color in the stars. But overall, this is certainly not a bad image. So if we like the screen stretch that we're seeing here, we can apply that permanently by opening up the screen transfer function and also the histogram transformation. And let me turn off the screen stretch, and now we'll do an actual screen stretch here in the screen stretch tool. I'll grab the triangle, drag it down to the bottom of the histogram transformation, and what you can see what that does is copy the parameters into the histogram transformation. So now when I apply that, it will apply that screen stretch to this image and make it permanent. And the image will suddenly become bright because we're also still applying a viewing screen stretch. So we'll just turn that off. So there's our first image with just a simple screen stretch, and that's a pretty good starting point. But I also wanted to explore some different stretching options. So let me close these, and I'll just, typically what I would do is save this, and in fact I already have saved this as a 16-bit TIFF. So I'm going to undo the screen stretch that we just did, so we can do a second stretch. And the goal with the second stretch is twofold. One is to have a little bit more color in the stars, and the other is to have more detail in the core. So let's look at the arc sine H stretch, which is a inverse hyperbolic arc sine, or inverse hyperbolic sine. Pull up our preview window here, and I know from working with this before it's going to take a pretty aggressive stretch, and we'll just do the estimate black point, and in this case it did a pretty good job. And you can see from the preview we've got a lot more color depth in the stars. The core is certainly not blown out. In fact, it's really not even bright enough yet. So I wouldn't think of this as an ending point for this stretch, but more as a starting point. But let's apply this. And now, rather than doing another arc sine stretch, I want to do just a simple histogram stretch. So we'll pull up our histogram transformation tool. Again, turn on our preview with the circle. And now we can play with just kind of manually stretching this to find a point that we feel looks pretty good. We've got a lot of detail here in the core, still have a lot of color in the stars, and in fact we're bringing out more of the dust detail that was not as obvious in the screen stretch version. So let's say we like this version, so we would apply our histogram stretch, and at that point now, once that's done, we can close the histogram transformation tool. There we go, and the preview. And so there's our second version, and I would now save this also as a 16-bit TIFF. Now let's go to Photoshop and look at ways we can combine the best of both. So let me open Photoshop, and I already have these two open as layers. Basically what I did was go to File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack, and what this does is it's set up to pick 2, 3, 5, 10, 100, however many files you want, and it loads that as a single document with each file on its own layer, which is exactly what we want. Here we have our arc sine stretch, and on the bottom layer we have our screen transfer stretch, which I say it has a lot of nice features to it. I kind of like the way it handles the main part of the nebula. The dust is a little bit on the bright side, so we don't have as much contrast here, and we don't have as much color in the stars. The arc sine stretch has more color in the stars, maybe a little bit more detail in the dust, and more detail in the core, and it actually is picking up some nice color in the perimeter areas that we didn't have, if I turn this back off, that we didn't have quite as much of in the first stretch. So let's use the screen transfer stretch as a foundation to build on, and we'll start, we'll wind up making several copies of this as we go, but to start with, let's just say we want to pick up the color in the stars. So let's change this blending mode, which the blending mode is the thing that determines how a layer interacts with what's below it, and the default is just normal blending mode. So what we see here is opaque and covers up what's below it. But by opening up the blending mode dialog, we can find there's lots of different options, and one of them down at the bottom is color. What this is doing is taking just the color from this layer and overlaying that below it. So if we look especially at the stars or at the area around the core, if I turn this layer on and off now, you'll see that the color in the stars, let me zoom in a little bit, this is off. When I turn it on, you can see the star color is coming through a little bit more pronounced. So that does a nice job just for color. Let's let this layer darken some of the core. So I'm just going to make a quick copy of this, and the easiest way to duplicate a layer is with the keyboard shortcut Control-J. That would be Command-J on a Mac. We've got this in color blending mode, and let's change it now to darken blending mode. What darken blending mode will do is any pixel on this layer that's darker than what's below will take priority. If it's lighter, it basically is just invisible. And we can see that what that's doing, it's darkening more or less the whole image, but in particular, it's darkening this central part of the core. And we just want a little bit of that darkening in there, so we'll use a layer mask to isolate that. I'll click the little icon at the bottom here to add a layer mask. And we want the layer mask to be black rather than white. We want it to hide everything to start with. So I'll just invert that mask by making sure the mask is selected, not the layer, but the mask. And it'll have a double outline around it. Control-I will invert the mask. So now the mask is hiding everything. I can simply grab the paintbrush, make white my foreground color, and I can paint with 100% opacity and 100% flow, and that will paint in that darker layer. Now that's probably too much, so let's undo that, and let's change the opacity from 100% to 20%. I'll make the brush a little bit smaller, and we'll just paint in here just a little bit in the core, just to make sure there's detail there and not completely blowing it out. Now the star itself does get maybe just a little bit dark, so let's swap our foreground and background colors with the X key. I'll make the brush even smaller, and what I want to do is hide this darkening layer from the star itself. And I'll tap 0 to get 100% opacity. And so now we're still letting the star itself shine through, but we're bringing in a little bit more detail around it. And let me turn this layer off and on. It's subtle, but it is having a little bit of an effect. Now, if I turn the layer mask off and look at the rest of the image, and I can do that by shift-clicking on the mask, and that'll temporarily disable the mask, we can see there's some areas in the gas cloud where that darkening has a nice effect. So let's turn the layer mask back on. I'm going to switch back to a white brush by tapping the X key. Make sure the layer mask is targeted and not the layer thumbnail. I'll make the brush a little bit larger, and let's paint with, let's say 30% opacity. And I'm just going to go around the outside and paint in some of that darkness from the surrounding area. And if you look at the layer thumbnail, you can see it's changed a little bit. That was only 30%. Let's go around again. And what this is doing is just highlighting some of that contrast in the dust area, so it's darkening the dark areas and keeping the brighter areas still fairly bright. So if we just review what we've done so far, we have darkened the core, and we've added color to the stars. So that was where we started. This is what we've done so far. Now there's something else that's interesting with this layer. There's actually some areas that are brighter in the outside area of the core. So let's make a copy again, Control J, and we'll just fill this layer with this mask with white. Right now white is our foreground color, so if I use again the keyboard shortcut alternate and backspace, that will fill the mask with white. And let's change this to whiten or lighten blending mode. And if I turn this off and on, we can see where it's having effects. It's making the stars bigger. I don't necessarily like that, but it is adding some nice brightness, especially I like the way it's doing it in the outside areas of the nebula. So again, let's invert the mask, Control-I. I'm going to grab the brush tool again. White is my foreground color, and this time we'll just use 100% opacity and flow. Make the brush a little smaller, and what I want to do is kind of paint around the perimeter. We're just letting those lighter areas around the outside come through, and that brightens up the whole nebula. If we think that's a little bit too much, we can always adjust the opacity of this layer. Maybe bring it down to, let's say, 60% or something like that. So now we've made quite a change in that original image. This was the original. Make this a little bit larger. That was the original just from the screen's transfer function, from the kind of the simple stretch. We used the combination of the arcsine stretch and histogram transformation, which gave us more color, and we used that to add more color to the stars. I'm not sure I like the color that it's adding to the nebula, so in fact let's add a layer mask here. Grab the brush tool, make black my foreground color, make this nice and big, and we'll just remove that color effect from the main part of the nebula so it doesn't get too rich too soon. If we want to let some of that shine through, just like we used the opacity on a layer, we can change the opacity of a layer mask by targeting the mask and then looking in the properties panel. One of the sliders is for the density. So if I adjust the density, what I'm doing is adjusting the density of that mask, and by letting the mask be less dense, I'm blocking less of it and letting a little bit of it come through. We used a copy of that layer in darken blending mode to add a little bit more depth in the center of the nebula and also in the surrounding dark parts of the sky. And then lastly, we added some brightness around the perimeter of the nebula to make that a little bit lighter. Now, there are lots of other things you could do, but I think I'll stop at this point because that was, quite a bit. But keep in mind, this is just one set of data processed one time in PixInsight and then 2 different stretches applied. And then using Photoshop, layer blending modes, and masks to try to combine and bring out the best of both. And notice that I never had to get detailed masks or make star masks or any of those kinds of details. I let the blending modes do kind of the heavy lifting. So for instance, in light and blending mode, I don't have to worry about anything that's darker because it won't have any effect. In darken blending mode, I don't have to worry about anything that's brighter. That's a good technique for adding stars back to a starless image. In light and blending mode, you're only adding stars. You're not affecting anything else. So I hope that answered questions and helped you out. If you have any more questions, drop them in the comments below or comment on Facebook, and I'll be happy to try to help you out. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day today and an even better night tonight under a clear, dark sky. Thanks.